Love, that ever-flowing liquid fire of light, ever-expanding and illuminating truth, which is always revealed with wisdom, a spiritual nutrient necessary for vitality that is maintained through selflessness, a filter of ether that aids purity, which is love. Love, a limitless paper lantern floating into infinity on the intentions and actions of initiates of the mysteries. Welcome, fellow Phoenixes, to the Spiritual Phoenix Podcast, where we make a daily offering to the divine by putting our past on the pyre, searching the smoke for spirituality, turning the ashes into art, adapting isolation into connection, and manifesting mental wellness. I'm your host, Ross Cessna, and together we are the Spiritual Phoenix. The intent of this show isn't to tell you what to think, but to get you to think and originally articulate yourself in a way that is uplifting. We are the artists of our lives, and today is a blank canvas. Let's collectively create a better tomorrow. And right now I'd like to take a moment and just focus on what we're grateful for today. Today I'm grateful for all these people coming up that I'm going to interview. I'm grateful for all the people I have interviewed as well. One of the people that have been on the podcast and someone that I talked to, a friend, a mentor, somebody who's really kind of helped me on my journey, Nixie Marie. I had reached out to her to see if she knew any men who I could talk to about spiritual things or have on the show. And she suggested a group of people. And I talked to the first one yesterday, Asa Laveau, and it was a really great chat, and it really got me amped up to talk to the rest of the guys. I knew that she would give me some good people to talk to, and I was kind of nervous about it in some ways because I really haven't got to talk to a lot of gentlemen about their perspective on spirituality, and I've typically been somewhat intimidated by men or thought I was better than, which is just a sign of my own insecurity, really. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Now I'd like to get into a couple of quotes for today. Patience is the companion of wisdom, and that was said by St. Augustine. The two hardest tests on the spiritual road are the patience to wait for the right moment and the courage to not be disappointed with what we encounter. And that was said by Paulo Coelho. I'm sure I didn't say that right. The last one is adopt the pace of nature. Her secret is patience. And that was said by Ralph Waldo Emerson. So I've been trying to type up a description a day for my, or two a day for my Tao Oracle, for my tarot page. That way I have those descriptions up there. So if I give somebody a reading, I can just share it. And the one that I got today was Standstill. And I'm going to read some of that description here in a second. But then I read one of the daily readings I do for every morning typically, and it was about patience. So because of the synchronicity of standstill and patience, I thought I would do today's episode on those topics. So now I'm going to read what the card Standstill says. The time of standstill arises when all that was once humming along seems to grind to a halt. Suddenly, for no apparent reason, doors of communication are closed and progress seems impossible on any front. One thing is said, another is heard. Difficulties and delays pile up to the point of paralysis, and finally it's impossible to know how or even if to proceed. It's like trying to shovel snow in a blizzard. However diligently you try to restore the sidewalks to their pristine pre-blizzard condition, the pesky white stuff keeps piling up. And finally, you're so exhausted you can't go on. These outer circumstances can also prove an inner crisis and leave you feeling as though you have failed somehow or that life has forgotten about you. Feelings of disorientation can arise as the plug seems to have been pulled on so much of what you assume would continue along a track you recently had all mapped out and under control. Had been pulled on To the extent you have likened your identity with the hum gone so suddenly silent, can challenge your very notions of who you are. Now, for me personally, this past weekend was relatively difficult. I talked about it a little bit with the interview with Asa yesterday, because he asked me what was up with that. And the short answer was I started to blame my inner stuff on all these outside situations. So I started to victimize myself. And then through victimizing myself, I started to look for external solutions for internal problems. So that kind of perpetuated that misery. I had a wake-up call Monday morning when I was doing a daily reading at one of my meetings, and I was on the wrong day, and a group of people pretty much told me, hey, you're reading the wrong day. And rather than assume that I was wrong, I assumed that everybody else was wrong. And that little slice of humility kind of made me pull back and realize how much I had been running off of ego and this assumption of correctness and self-centeredness, really. One of the things that was somewhat tripping me up was one of my female friends who I've known for a while, who I have feelings for, who we aren't pursuing that now. I was somewhat upset that she hadn't been contacting me as much as I want, so there's like this expectation of what it should be, or whatever. And I had this realization that, you know, she's just doing her, she's doing what she's doing. Part of me took it negative, and then I realized that that's just me taking things negatively, like projecting, what if she's doing this, what if she's doing that, blah, blah, blah. But after that happened, I was kind of like, dude, you're creating the story in your head, you're developing this false reality based around all this stuff, and you're trying to resolve this internal feeling through all this busy work that's actually making you feel worse. So that was a heavy dose of reality. And then yesterday, I kind of had this concept that, like, I made peace with the whole situation and realized she's probably just doing what's best for her. And the irony is, shortly after that, I got a text from her telling me what she had been doing. Honestly, let me back that up. Initially, I had been thinking what she should be doing in this negative way. And I was like, you know what, dude? You don't know. It's not your place to decide what she should be doing. And then she sent me this message kind of saying what she had been doing, which is what I think that she should have been doing. Like, this is how crazy my mind can still get. And it was like, wow, she was doing the right thing, and you didn't have to do anything, say anything, like, and here you are judging her, and it's more about me wanting to manipulate, control, find fault in others because I'm uncomfortable. And actually that space away, her taking her time for her, was what I needed to evaluate that, and for her to do what she needed to do. And the thing is, the reality of it is, she wasn't even taking time away, she was just doing her. Like, I have it so built up in my head sometimes that I have these expectations of this should be this should be that. And it really is just like, no, dude, I need sometimes that standstill to just evaluate stuff. And I mean, even with what I'm doing with the podcast, another part of the standstill that I don't have written down, it kind of says, if things have come to a standstill, and this isn't in relation to the female friend, this is in relation to the business. If things have come to a standstill, maybe it's because you're doing the same things and you need a different level of something to change. In my personal life, previously with addiction and stuff, that constant stagnant standstill is what led me to change. And with the business stuff, it's like, maybe I need a deeper level of commitment to other elements that I've been neglecting for it to grow. And that'll sound like common sense to most people, but it was a revelation for me. And I like how the one quote about adopt the pace of nature, her secret is patience, and that was said by Ralph Waldo Emerson. That's what I need to remember. I did the one episode on the philosophy of natural change, and that good change comes slowly. So I'm in this situation of change, but I have to remember to make these changes and not get so caught up in having results or expectations of what the results of these changes will be, but just to make them slowly, gradually. And yeah, one of the things that I've asked for this year was to develop patience. Be careful what you ask for. On a more serious note, like, I'm grateful for it because it's teaching me discipline, it's teaching me perseverance, it's teaching me so much, so many lessons that a lot of people digest earlier, that it's nice to be getting it finally, even if I am a quote-unquote late bloomer. It's pretty awesome. And looking at where I started with all of this, like, I think I'm close to have been doing the podcast for almost 9 months now. Looking where I started to where I'm at now, it's pretty impressive to see what the amount of patience has created in lots of ways. And it's pretty awesome to see what's flourished when I thought I could never get to where I'm at, or where I could never get comfortable doing what I'm doing. It's pretty amazing. So I think that with both Standstill and Patience coming up on the same day, it's kind of telling me to learn to be comfortable when things aren't progressing, which is something that I am learning, and just to be patient with myself, with my own shortcomings, and also with be patient with the flow of life. Things will come to me when they're supposed to. But the other part of Standstill is also sometimes I have to take the action and change things up. But Patience would say I don't have to make catastrophic action or drastic action to make these changes occur. Sometimes little changes, like a little stream being diverted, and the persistence of those little changes, that can carve out a canyon. So I can continue to carve out my own niche and develop my own flow of life and my own groove, so to speak, just by taking it easy, appreciating the moment, stopping sometimes, looking at where I've come so far, looking at what I've accomplished, looking where I want to go, checking out my surroundings 360 degrees, and realizing that to get to other places, it's going to take patience, just like it took patience to get me from my past to where I'm at today. Yeah, I think that's a good note to end on. You can follow me on social media at Spiritual Phoenix. I offer free daily tarot readings at Spiritual Phoenix Tarot. I've updated the prices on my website for the tarot readings as well. $25 for 4 cards. I'll throw in 2 cards for a bit too, 2 extra cards. So for $25 you get 6 cards pulled. I'll do it via Facebook video or whatever, or Messenger or something. And yeah, I also started a podcast of 1 minute long poetry called the Phoenix Poetry Podcast. Currently it's on iTunes, but I'll be adding it on other services in the future. Hopefully the next time I read that, I've added it on the other services. But patience. You can visit the website at thespiritualphoenix.com. I love, respect, and appreciate all of you. Love and light. Namaste.
Don't believe. Don't follow. Do not consume. Do not watch. Largely what I'm talking about here is reclaiming experience. This is what's been taken from us. It's a self-advancing, self-expanding, self-defining process. and it takes no prisoners.
The real world isn't a spiritual world, it isn't a material world, it isn't an empty world, it isn't a solid world. It's simply